Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic episode on the Unleashing Potentials podcast. I'm your host, Bernadette. Joining me today is Sadie. How are you?
I'm so good. It's a thrill to be here. Thank you. Yay.
You're welcome. Sadie, thank you also for being on the podcast today. And thank you for reaching out. We have so much in common. You guys just might have to wait until the end of this episode to get the punch of everything we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Can you tell us whereabout are you tuning in from? Where in the world are you?
I am right now, I'm in Bellevue, Washington, but I've been hanging out in Salem, Oregon. Yeah, I actually live in my little converted shuttle bus and tour around the country and travel a lot. I don't have like a set, stable one place, which is kind of
Mhm.
what I love, you know? It's an
Yeah.
adventure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
really
is.
cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, Sadie, can you start by telling us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, who I am. Well, that's big. That's a huge question. I will. Whew. Okay, my name is Sadie. I've been, and what I do, I'll go into that because that just kind of encompasses who I am. I think I've been on a journey of sacred sexuality. Sexuality and sensuality has just been a huge part of my life since I was, younger. And has taken me on an interesting journey, right? I think what I work in is sacred sexuality and supporting people to have more consciousness around their sexual energy and expression and um, be more in their power around it in our society in this day and age. There's just been thousands of years of repression of this beautiful, sacred, gorgeous, divine energy that is our human nature, right? We're sexual, sensual beings with all these amazing senses to experience and explore this gorgeous planet that we live on. And yet, a lot of the systems we've grown up in and that have been dominant on the planet for so long have really shunned and shamed the body, have shunned and shamed, perverted and distorted our sexuality, and really dampened our creativity and our passion and our shining our lights bright. We're like kind of molded into these little boxes. Here's what it's supposed to look like. Here's how you're supposed to be. Here's what you're supposed to want out of life. And I have just kind of always pushed back on that, and not even in the beginning in a conscious way. But now I understand, how I came in. I came in to push against these systems, right? To
Mhm.
push against those and not to be in a fighting mentality, that's not it, but I just knew that it didn't serve me, and I don't think it serves most of humanity. So the sexuality piece is a big one when we can move beyond guilt and shame and unhealthy ways of connecting, not only sexually, but relationally, right? There's so much codependence and unhealthy ways of connecting with each other from a real lack, right? From a real place of emptiness and void, that spiritual connection piece that so many of us are missing too. So my path has been all about learning how to love myself, how to appreciate and rock out my sensual energy and sexual energy, because it was again like feeling bad about it, not knowing how to express it in a healthy way, but knowing it was an important piece of me, which I want to emphasize doesn't mean that I was wanting to have sex all over the place. I just was a sensual person. I am, and I enjoy sharing that, but it can get us into trouble, right? Especially when we don't know ourselves, right? And we don't know our boundaries. We don't know, and we're connecting with other people that aren't healthy in their sexual expression. So it's been a lifelong journey of really coming into my power. And then as going through my process, I'm super passionate about supporting us to all be in our power around it. So that's, and we'll dive a little deeper into that in a minute, but
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm sure we're going to go there. So I'll stop there. That's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. As you were speaking, there's so much that is going through my mind. I'm looking through different visions I'm having of a web of life because it takes me to the womb of a woman, and
Hmm.
it takes me to Gaia, Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And yes, you're right, there's a lot of shame, guilt, and we suppress who we are. And the misconception is that if we talk about sexuality, it means having sex, when it doesn't. And
Right.
you've given us so many beautiful examples of it being not that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I love that you talked about expression.
Yeah.
That is also that, right? And when it comes to that, I think physically we suppress ourselves. An example in the summer, even not in the summer, some women, they just don't feel comfortable wearing a bathing suit,
Mm.
showing their beauty, whether it's a birthmark or stretch marks or whatever it may be. And it's stepping into that power and ownership of our true essence.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey that I was going to say so many of us go on, but so many of us don't also, right? We just shut it down so much. And especially women. But you know what? No, no, I need to take that back. Men too. They're actually so scared to even express their sexual selves because women, it's been so distorted and perverted again for men. Like, oh, they're preying on women and oh, they're, out of control sexually or something, or women don't know how to receive and men are vilified and then women are vilified. I mean, it's just a big mess, right? We just don't know and so a lot of men are very shut down and they just won't even approach women because they don't want to be seen as that guy, right? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so and that's so sad, right? We're all just so like, you know. And it's
Yeah.
we're our natural longing is to be in union with each other, right?
Hmm.
And so when that's just so distorted, and I feel like I don't want to go into, I don't know, there's no blame. It's just been part of our experience for whatever reason. I don't know if this was intentional. Some people say it is. We're intentionally robbed of our sexuality and our sexual power, and it's been an intentional thing, but whatever, whatever it is, it was a part of our path. I believe everything happens for a reason and for a purpose. So that's just been our experience, but now we're moving out of it. And I think we're recognizing a lot of what didn't work and trying to find our way out, which is
Hmm.
it's hard, right? It's
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah, it
And
is.
where do we even start? Because I used to talk about, oh, a healthy sexuality. And then as I started exploring that for myself, it's just like, we don't even know what that means because it's been modeled so weird. And there's I remember for me, I'll share this one thing and then and then stop. But around libido, right? Here's what a healthy libido looks like, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what I'm supposed to aspire to, right? To want sex 3 times a week or something. That's healthy. And then it was like, well, according to whom? Who made up that rule? And so even those models of like, here's what healthy sexuality is it's very personal. It's not, so we're even trying to take on models that aren't, it's very personal. Everybody's energy and their sexuality is a deeply personal experience. And to try to take on what other people are saying is normal or healthy is that's just one more box that we're trying to fit ourselves into. So I would so caution about against that one because I
Mhm.
fell into it, right? It was easy to just be like, oh, this is what I should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 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 I'm thinking of this song called Sexual Healing.
Mm.
Is it by Marvin Gaye?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find it so powerful, the words in it,
Wow.
and being written and he sang it as a male.
Yes.
And though there's comfort in that song, there are messages of hope and resilient. And
Mm.
also he's speaking for men and women,
Yeah,
advocating for themselves
right.
and what they want to get out of their sexual healing.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to listen to that.
Oh,
Awesome.
it's a good song.
Yeah, I know of it, but I just haven't listened to it that deeply. How beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that in. Awesome.
Yeah. 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 Let me ask this question because I have to. Um, how can sexual trauma impact our sexual health or sexual energy?
Yeah, that's just huge, right? And
Mhm.
I will say this is not, I'm not trained in this. This is not my expertise. I work on a very energetic level. I do energy healing and sound healing and work with everything at that kind of quantum understanding that we are made of energy, vibration, and frequency, and everything in our experience is. So something like sexual trauma is an energy, right? There's a horrible energy that we're taking in that's being perpetrated upon us. And then we usually aren't in a state and we don't have the tools and understanding on how to move through that. So we hold on to that energy and we trap it inside of us. And then that informs how we, move forward and how we relate to each other and another and to ourselves. And there's a lot of shame around that because yeah, we're taking the energy of somebody else's fear and trauma because people don't do that. They don't inflict pain upon another unless they're in this deep, deep, deep pain themselves, right? Um, so then we take that on and then we embody it ourselves. And again, that's quite a healing process, right? Um, and then a really important piece, and this is really kind of a big part of my journey and how I like to support women and men. It's the same because it's an intergenerational trauma. Sexual abuse has been going on and violence has been perpetrated against women for thousands of years, right? So, and it's not like it ends when people die, it stays in our lineage, right? And I think we're understanding this so much more how all of this gets passed down. We understand now epigenetics, we understand yeah, intergenerational trauma. We know how that works now. And so we take it on, even if we haven't experienced that kind of abuse, we take it on from our lineage, right? And then all men are birthed through the female, right? So they're taking it on regardless because they're made of that energy. So we're all carrying this traumatic energy within us. And so how I like to work with people is to really dig into that energy. But we bypass the mind when we go into energy healing, like because certainly there's story to it and there's the experience of it and there's, who knows what, but diving into that isn't really necessarily going to help us so much. And when we work at on an energetic level and just work to clear that energy and to open it up, like breath work is great for opening.
Mhm.
But yeah, energy healing, sound healing really just goes into the frequency and helps to clear it out. And then that brings us a lot of freedom. So but there's something also to understanding and diving in at a mental level. So I think body, mind, spirit, we need to work with these things. Again, on the spiritual level, I think I feel, believe, know that every experience that happens to us is something that we have called into our lives. And I know a lot of people have a lot of hard time with that, right? It's like, why
Yep.
would I do that to myself? But it's some sort of lesson that we're learning. And when we dive into it at that level and that understanding, things can open up for us a lot. And we can move out of the victim consciousness. We can see how it's supported our growth. We can see how we might have drawn that in through old patterns and old energies. And it really opens it up for us. So yeah, it's a big one, but it's in the collective. Again, it's so big, so
Mhm.
trying to even depersonalize some of it, right? I think, and looking at it as a collective trauma and issue that we're all moving through together. So
Mhm.
did
Mhm.
that answer?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you mentioned sacred because our sexual energy and who we are is sacred.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to expand more on masculine and feminine energy because
Mm.
people have heard of those terms, but they don't really understand them in a way that would make sense to them. I had to learn what they mean because I
Absolutely.
just assume feminine, female,
Right.
masculine, male, which
Yeah.
is true and not true because all of us, male, female, carry both energies.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. And just at a bigger cosmic level, yeah, the our universe is made of masculine and feminine energies, and we can see this expressing in so many ways. Like look at plants. For people that know anything about plants and flowers, there's like different the sexual parts of the flower, the reproductive parts of the flower are masculine and feminine. There's like language, there's masculine and feminine qualities of language. It's just an energy that expresses through our experience in every way, really. And we have really gendered it in that sense, or just gotten really kind of attached to it means male and female, but it's an energy. They're energies that express through our whole everything. Um, I don't know how articulate that was, but
Yeah.
that's funny. But for us individually, when we're born, okay, here's a great one. This
Mhm.
is great. I haven't said this before, but it just flashed in. We are birthed into this world, right? But we're made of, we couldn't get here without the masculine and feminine coming together, right? To create that, to fertilize the egg
Mhm.
that gets birthed through the feminine. And we show up typically in usually in one or more. I know we can show up, different people can show up in both genders, both physical genders, but typically we come out as either masculine or feminine bodies, right? Our bodies are expressing that energy. Our body is a physical expression of this feminine and masculine energy. But we're made of the two that came together. So when we come out and we're showing up in whatever, form we are, we're still made of those two energies, right? But we're expressing more dominantly visually in this one. And now it's lovely that we're playing around with gender so much, and there's just so much, you can show up in a masculine body and just feel so much more feminine and want to express that way. And that's just really beautiful. And I think that's really showing us we're coming into that place in our evolution where we're opening into that more and having a lot more fluidity and questioning, like,
Mhm.
what does this
Mhm.
mean? What does this mean? But that's also speaking to that we are both, right? And there's
Mhm.
no one set thing, but the masculine qualities tend to be more mental, more I want to say action oriented, but logic. There's a lot of mind-based things. If you can't see it or you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. It's kind of a masculine. There's
Mhm.
I'm kind of blanking right now, but and the feminine is a more receptive quality. It's our intuition, it's our emotions, which have not been, it's psychic gifts and abilities.
Mhm.
It has not been so supported in this society for a long time, right? The masculine has been the dominant, achieve, 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 do, let's go. Early bird gets the worm. If you're not productive, you're not worthy of being, right? And that's really supported in our society. And if you're not winning, if you're not, you got to be on top. And that's all very masculine, which is, it's great energy. But when it gets out of balance, and we've been shunning the feminine, not trusting intuition. It has to be all mind. And we're not in our hearts, and we're not allowing and we're really distorting and shunning our emotions, especially men. And for women, if you're too emotional, right? And you just get, you get shut down for that. So we've all really shut down our emotions and disconnected. Um, and just gotten out of balance. So again, we are all made up of these qualities. We are mind, we are heart, we are spirit, we are all of it. And when we're too imbalanced, that's when we're causing all these issues. And that's when we're seeing a real, like a beautiful as within, so without, as above, so below. When we're that imbalanced within ourselves, it's showing up in our relationships, right? I mean, we're seeing just relationships are not going well, right? It's just, it hasn't been. And it's just because we're not healthy within, we're not balanced within. So of course it's not going to be balanced without. So any of those unhealthy relationship patterns we're in, it's a clear reflection of what's going on within us, right? So did that explain it? I know I
Oh,
kind
it
of went
did. Yeah, yeah,
things
it did.
there.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so important for us to like strengthen and learn about and understand. And this is a great one because I did this too. I'm like, oh yeah, masculine and feminine. Whoa, what's that? You know, or healthy masculine and wounded masculine. Okay, I would know like, okay, I certainly don't want to be in, you know, wounded feminine energies. But what does that mean? So I really it wasn't until I started like researching it and looking into like, and you can just type it into a browser. What are healthy feminine and masculine qualities? What are wounded feminine and masculine qualities? And all this stuff that comes up, and you're just like, oh, yep, I'm totally rocking that out. I'm rocking that out. Yes, I do that one. Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. Okay. And then you can really see the masculine if you're feminine, if that's how you show up mostly predominantly, and then you see these masculine unhealthy traits and the positive traits, and you can see like, oh, absolutely. I totally resonate with that. And you can see the feminine qualities, and then you can be, oh, okay. And when you see those, I have a program, a 12-week program that really dives into this and helps us to really look at these for ourselves because it's so unconscious, right? We're rocking out these unconscious patterns, and until we see them and like, oh, we can't change them, right? It's just kind of so definitely in encouraging people to look that up and dive into that more for themselves. It's very eye-opening.
Yeah.
And then you can really understand the feminine and masculine and why we could call them something else, right? But it's just two energies that are predominant in our experience. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
excited about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it takes intervention and help to see how much we have buried ourselves in our own crap,
Yeah.
in
And
our
our own crap, right? Yeah.
mindset. Yeah. Yeah. It takes help, and not all of us are willing to accept help. I want
Yeah.
to ask you though, walk me through your program. You told us just a little bit. Do you help men and women? And what
Yes.
what is the process? What kind of homework do you give? Are your homework hard?
What was that last part?
The homework that you give, are they difficult?
Well, it's I call it like my total life transformation. It's really learning how to it's everything that I've learned on my spiritual path, all my tools and all of everything kind of put together in this package and organized in this way to really help us get under the unconscious. I mean, I think that's really the key piece of the program is, if it's not conscious, we can't work with it, right? So we need to bring it up to our conscious awareness, and then we can start making different choices. So many of the patterns that we've taken on are, yeah, they're intergenerational. We came in with them, right? We learn them from family. We learn them from society. We learn them from the systems and structures that, school, education, media, whatever is just that's celebrated in this society. We took it all on, right? And we didn't know to question it. It's not supported to question. And then all of a sudden we are older and we find ourselves like, what happened? Actually, this isn't working out for me, right? So we really have to start picking it apart and kind of diving in there and exploring like, okay, what are those belief systems I took on? Are they serving me? What might be some other things that I could try on for myself and have more consciousness? Again, all of this came in like so many of us when we're young, right? And we just take this stuff on without questioning. And we didn't make those conscious decisions of how we want to live our lives, what's important, what do I value. Values is a real key piece of this. And a lot of people haven't explored that for themselves. What are my values? What's really important to me? And am I living in alignment with that? No. All right. How do we start doing that? And it's kind of a dismantling and peeling away of what isn't working. So it's really diving into so many areas, body, mind, spirit. We dive into like nutrition, what is the foods I'm taking on that actually aren't supporting me? So, and that's a baseline. When our energy, it's a very energy related program too. Again, I relate to everything as energy and frequency. So what are the frequencies we're surrounding ourselves with and filling ourselves with that are keeping us at this low vibration? What media are we watching? What food are we eating? Who are the relationships we're having? What are the things? Are they elevating us to where we actually want to be, or are they keeping us in fear? A fear-based energy, and which is really prevalent in our society. So it's getting much more conscious.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I lost you for a bit there.
Okay, great. Not sure where we dropped off there, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were talking about your program.
yeah. So yeah, really working at an energetic level and understanding our frequencies and what we're surrounding ourselves with, right? And then learning to make healthier choices for ourselves. Again, once people start getting really conscious of this, they're able to make different choices and they're recognizing like, oh wow, yeah, I just don't want to. We kind of go about our lives just kind of accepting things for how they are. And then when we realize like, actually, I can take total control of this situation. I have the power. We
Mhm.
are very powerful beings. We've just kind of lost track of that somewhere along the way for whatever reason. But now we're like, okay, coming back into it, which means we get to create our own reality by the decisions we make, conscious choices. So it really supports people to, yeah, look at all areas of their life. Another Another really important piece for me is the spirituality. It's there's a lot in the program that's helping people to connect with their own spirituality, to discover what that is for themselves, because we've um, gotten very disconnected from our power and our divinity and our spiritual connection. And because again, we've grown up in a lot of religious dogmatic systems that have taken our power away, and so we need to go through this person to connect with this specific thing that is God, whatever that is in that tradition.
Mhm.
But our spirituality is so personal, you know?
Yeah.
What is it for us? What does that mean outside of those things that we've been taught? And a lot of people get very they'll get really shut down around it because it's just like, oh, that didn't work for me. That religion thing didn't work. So I don't do spirituality, right? They think spirituality is religion. A lot of people get that confused, but it's our own power, it's our own connection. So there's practices and there's exploration in there to help people connect with and discover their very own spiritual connection outside of any nobody should be telling you what that looks like for you, right? And how do you connect with your higher self, with your soul, with source, with whatever that might be for you. So again, it's body, mind, spirit. We kind of look at all of it. And um, the first part is a dismantling, an undoing, and then like, okay, so that's what we don't want. But now what do we want? We have to fill it with like a new way of being. So we decide and we explore, yeah, who do I want to be going forward? Not who somebody else told me I'm supposed to be. What's actually important to me? And then when we get clear on that, then we can move forward in a healthy way, you know? If we don't know where we're going and we don't know what we want and who we want to be, we're at the whim of whatever, right? We're just going along in this kind of victim thing, like, oh, well, this just happened to me, so I'm doing this, you know. But and a key piece of this program is that there's an energy healing session every week. Well, there's 2 weeks of a break in there because that's a lot. But so there's 10 energy healing sessions. So we get in there. It's not only are we doing practices and different, breath work and meditation, there's a whole bunch of modalities, a daily practice, which is very important also to have that foundation of a daily practice. It's one thing to talk about and to read about meditation or read about breath work, but let's find something that actually works, and supports people on their journey to create their own daily practice to really like into it. So, but the energy healing sessions, we get into the chakras and clear this energy out. Again, we don't need to get into story, but let's clear it as we're bringing it up. We're bringing it out from the unconscious, and now let's clear it out. So it's super freaking powerful. The people who have gone through it are just like, whoa, what happened? I had no idea I was getting into this, right?
Yeah.
I knew the program appealed to me, but I had no idea the level of transformation that was going to happen. So there, it's been amazing for people. So thanks for asking about that. That's exciting to share.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So tell us more about your adoption journey because you're an adoptee. I'm also an adoptee, but I want to hear your journey.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just during my breath work practice today, I went into it again. It continues to come up. Again, the energetics of this
Mhm,
being um conceived in an experience in a situation of not being wanted, right? My parents obviously did not want me, and it was, I feel like, a real experience of guilt and shame for my biological mother. And I feel like I just kind of marinated in that in the womb, right? And then I've come out just really having to deal with that, being not wanted and very,
mhm,
low self-esteem, insecurity, so much grief around the loss, just horrible grief. And I spent, and then I ended up in a family that, with a mother that wasn't really able to care for me in that way. People have this fantasy. I was just having this conversation yesterday, this fantasy of adopting, like, oh, it's gonna be amazing. I'm just gonna adopt this baby and everything's gonna be fine. And it's like, you, this baby just got taken from their mother and is in trauma and in so much grief that they're not able to express and they have no tools for it. And if they're not supported in that way, I mean, my mother would say, like, or my adopted mother,
mhm,
I used to cry all the time as a child, like, yeah, it was not a happy camper, right? I was dealing with a lot of pain and a lot of wounding. Um, and not everyone, I suppose, maybe experiences it in the same way, but I was very sensitive and I didn't deal with it well. And nobody could support me through this. And
mhm,
it led me into really trying to cope with my pain and loss on my own in ways that made sense to me at the time, right? And so that
mhm,
turned into a lot of drug addiction and, ending up on the streets and ending up in really unhealthy, abusive relationships. And,
mhm,
because my self-esteem was so gone and I thought I was a bad person, I thought, I wasn't wanted, I wasn't lovable, I wasn't, so I just kept bringing in more experiences to support that belief system, right? Like, why wouldn't my mother want me? I took it in really hard that I was a bad, bad person, So,
mhm,
so then that's been, and just a total spiritually devoid, right? There was no spiritual connection, no nothing. But through this journey, and that's been a long thing, and ending up getting sober and then starting on my spiritual path and
mhm,
starting to really open that up and explore that like Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning book, that really was like
mhm,
finding meaning in that loss and in that experience really turned things around for me because I was also in so much victim consciousness, like this happened to me
mhm,
and a lot of anger around that, very angry. And I felt validated in that anger. And it was kind of like, fuck you, everybody. This happened to me and you don't understand, right?
mhm.
And all of my pain and freak out is valid.
Mm.
It is valid, but it was only destroying me more, right?
Yeah.
So, when I finally started understanding that and started, dissecting it and recognizing, like, what if I chose that experience for myself to come
Mhm,
in and have that experience? Why would I do that? What was I trying to learn?
mhm,
And for me, it's turned into like a deeper connection with the universal mother, with the cosmic mother, with Mother Earth, a much bigger experience of mother that I didn't come in to have that experience, but to open it up in a much bigger way. And it also taught me just so much empathy and compassion. And
mhm,
I will touch on this last part here, but I had some pretty big awakenings around it or realizations around why I might be so passionate about
mm,
conscious sexuality because where I came from was not conscious sexuality. They obviously were, who knows? I wasn't there, right? I mean, I was there, I got conceived, but I don't know. But it wasn't, they
Yeah.
weren't intending to have a child, and yet they did. And it wasn't conscious. So I feel like a product of unconscious sexuality. And now my passion is to support other people to do it differently, right? And to have
Mhm.
more consciousness and yeah, so it's interesting how it all comes together, right? So,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's been a
I love
journey.
that.
And what?
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, adoption is such a complex thing to go through. Not everyone understand the depth of it, the amount of trauma and pain that even adoptive parents do carry, but more so adoptees. And I think we need to continue to talk about it.
yeah, me
There's
too.
just too much trauma around it, and it's been a vicious cycle that hasn't stopped. There needs to be more information, more
Yeah,
education, and also more of us, me and you as adoptees coming forward to share our stories without judgment. So I appreciate that you're sharing. I've
yeah,
talked a little bit about my adoption story. It is so complex. I have to literally break it down to talk about it again,
yeah,
to help people understand the impact of it and how they can speak to adoptees. I think, from my experience, but both of my parents were alive. My mom is still alive. It's the myth or misconception that, oh, so and so is an adoptee, and therefore their parents don't want them. It's not always the case. For me, it wasn't. And yeah, the healing journey, it's a continuous journey. I'm still working on it.
yeah. No, it's ongoing, and it's just honestly so tired of it. Well, seriously, like it came up again this morning in this really powerful way where I just like recognize like how like loving myself and accepting love and nourishment from the universe and from other people, because I just kind of shut down because it was my best way to defend against that kind of pain and loss. And so and just again not feeling worthy of love. Why would my mother leave me?
Mhm.
It's so deep, and it's just like and but gosh, I've done so much work around it, right? And then to have it still show up, it's like, really? Still? Like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, but I guess the difference now is I don't get lost in it, right? I spent the first half of my life lost in that pain and drowning in that pain. Now it comes up and I'm like,
Mhm.
yes, there you are again. And okay, I recognize you, I honor you, and we're gonna move through. I don't attach anymore, and I don't take it personally anymore. I just recognize it. I'm like, yep, there it is. That's a part of my human journey in this lifetime. And I don't have to attach, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think something you said earlier, like how people talk to adoptees or understand, and this is true of anybody that's had some diversity or some sort of not as commonplace challenge maybe, or just anybody. I don't know. We all have our different things, right? But to assume that we know, because people are like, oh, yay, you got adopted. That's awesome. And it's like, "Hmm,
Yeah.
yeah, sure thing." Like, actually, it was horribly traumatizing, and people just don't know. But because we're fed those stories of it's just so romanticized and like, oh, here comes a happy family and they adopt a baby and everything's great, and there's flowers and rainbows and unicorns. It's like, actually, no. So, and that's fine. We can't fault other people for not knowing, right? We just have to take
Mhm.
responsibility and educate when it's appropriate and not take that in personally. Because yeah, it's just people don't know, right? And it seems like a nice thing, but it's not. So
Yeah, yeah.
usually, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So what messages of hope that you have for adoptees and also adoptive parents?
My biggest one for adoptees is for me that victim consciousness was huge, and I tried to create a support group, for other adoptees, and a lot of them were just so locked into the pain of it that they weren't able to move forward, and they were really in that story. And I get it. I absolutely freaking get it. I spent, like I said, the first half of my life there, and trying to deal with my own pain. But it wasn't until I started like finding meaning in it and moving out of that victim consciousness and just like, yeah, that was a part. Again, like I read hmm, what was this book? Lives Between Lives or In Between Lives, where the guy has done like hypnosis and walked people through the stories that people are sharing about their in between their lives. If that resonates, not everyone, believes in reincarnation or
Mhm.
but he was talking about these different soul groups and how they would decide what life they were going to come into and what experiences they were going to have and who was going to play what role. And that that book changed everything for me. It resonated at a very deep level, and I had some sort of inner memory of kind of making these choices. And like, absolutely, I chose to come in here to have that experience. And I think that kind of experience, anytime we go through that kind of loss, and that's what the human journey is about, we can learn deep compassion and empathy through it. We learn beautiful things. So I resonated with that, and it shifted everything. No longer was I a victim. Why did this happen to me? How could my mother give me up? Why didn't my family understand? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, what if I did choose this for myself? How does that change everything? What am I learning? And how does that give me so much more compassion for the pain and suffering of the world and what we're all moving through at various different levels and experiences? So it changed everything for me and it changed everything in my life. Like I was no longer a victim. So that's what I would say to adoptees, like really explore that and do what you can to move out of that consciousness,
Yeah.
right? And find some meaning in it. And what did you learn and how is that supporting you now? For adopted or parents, um, just really understand the trauma that's going on, the loss and the grief that people are experiencing. And
Mhm.
it's and have those conversations and acknowledge it. And it doesn't mean you can fix it and take it away, but even just acknowledging it, like my family didn't understand. And at that time we were in a different consciousness, and
Mhm.
babies didn't have feelings back then, right?
Mhm.
Babies didn't have feelings. They
Mhm.
didn't have a personality. That was the understanding. So of course they couldn't put it together like that I was grieving and I needed support like that. So um, yeah, just understand. I mean, it's beautiful that you're, welcoming people into your family and wanting to support in that way. But the reality is there's a lot of pain. So just,
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And also for people, don't adopt because it's cute. You want to be seen with this beautiful, perfect family. Don't do it for that reason. And like you said, understand and know the trauma that
Yeah.
that this child is going through. Especially if you adopt them when they're awake, meaning older children. I was adopted when I was older. I knew and remember exactly everything that was going on, and I remember it up to this day. And because I'm from a different country, different culture, it was a international adoption. There was a lot of cultural barriers. My language, my culture, they were trying to strip that away from my soul, my language, pictures of my family.
Mm,
Don't do that. Don't do that to people because that is their identity. It's a part of them that makes them who they are. So when parents do that to kids, it is the absolute worst thing that anyone can do to a human being because they have to rebuild themselves, redefine who they are. And if parents don't give them the tools to do that, then it's gonna take longer. It's just gonna be a complete mess.
A complete
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yes. Wow. I I want to switch roles right now and be the interviewee. I have so
Well,
many
come back
questions.
again. I think we'll be working together, doing more lives and talking more in depth about this because it's needed.
It's really important. Yeah, and especially that adds in elements that are just so beyond anything I could fathom, like that's yeah, I had the I guess privilege of being a baby without all of those that place to be taken out of and like dropped into a whole nother experience without
Mhm.
that kind of support. That's next level right there. So wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. We
Yeah.
have covered so much. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give you a few minutes to share anything that we didn't get to talk about. Just let us know, how we can support you, your journey and your work.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go into the victim consciousness piece again because it
Mhm.
doesn't just pertain to adoptees or there's
Yeah.
just so many ways that we have kind of allowed our power to be stripped from us, or we have allowed ourselves to not be in our power. Let's just say that because we're not going to blame somebody else for that. It's
Mhm.
just, again, the society we've grown up in, the culture we've grown up in, it hasn't supported us to be in our own sovereign free will and our divine essence and really shining our light bright and being in our power. And there's so many ways that we can outsource our power to the systems, to government, to parents, to partners, to the career, to the job, whatever. And just if only this, if it weren't for this, then I would be this. And it's just like, no, we have to take responsibility for ourselves and we have to get clear on how we want to live our lives, what's important to us, what do we stand for, and then start making healthy decisions for ourselves and moving in the direction that we really want to be in without making it somebody else's fault. It's just and that being said, like trying to move out of the systems that aren't supporting us, right? A lot
Mhm.
of people are so invested in them, but we actually can choose a different way. Like myself, it's out living on in my shuttle bus, just out doing things. You're told you buy a house, you settle down, you do this, and this is how you're supposed to live a life, and that's supported, right? And
Mhm.
when you rock the boat and you start going a different way, it's just like, wow, but like going out in this shuttle bus and really living my life and just breaking total convention. I mean, I've always done it, but this is a whole new level. And it's just
Yeah.
amazing. People really get kind of stuck in these things that they've been told is what they're supposed to do. Like,
Yeah.
let's dive in. Who are we? What do we want? What's important? What makes us shine? What lights us up? What turns us on? What's passionate? What's juicy? And then
Mhm.
let's start moving into that. So that's everything I do is about that, just really supporting us to know ourselves. A lot of people like, I don't even know what my passion is. Absolutely, because you've on so much, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. That's fine. And we start there. And then we just start again, unpacking, dismantling, clearing out what's not working, right? That's a great place to start. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, so many people don't even know themselves. They don't even know
Yeah.
themselves. So this is a huge journey of back into the heart, right? Back
Mhm.
into our hearts. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. I agree. Yeah, wow. What an incredible, powerful, amazing this interview has been. Thank you so much for showing up, for delivering, for continuing to spread love and empowering people.
Yeah.
We need it. We need you, and the world would not be the same without you. So thank you.
Likewise, thank you for what you're doing. And next time, let's switch roles. I'm going to ask you all questions.
Yes, yes, you're gonna
Yeah,
interview me.
yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
make it happen.
I love
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.